Welcome to NeedleXChange, the stories behind the stitches. I'm Jamie Chalmers, aka Mr. X Stitch, and today I'm interviewing Jessica Pile and Robert Ossant. Jessica and Robert are researchers and authors who focus on couture embroidery, combining technical analysis with historical and creative context to better understand how and why these works are made. This is the second half of our NeedleXChange, and we move beyond the garments themselves into the wider landscape of fashion. Topics include the economics of clothing, sustainability, and the tension between high fashion and everyday wear. We also talk about education, skill development, and the personal journeys that led Jessica and Robert into embroidery and fashion history, offering some useful insights into what it takes to build a creative career in this field. I love chatting with Jessica and Robert. I've known Robert for years. Their book, The Art of Couture Embroidery, is out now and is a fantastic resource for anybody who's interested in that special realm. If you enjoyed the show, and I hope you do, share it with someone else who's curious about the stories behind the stitches, and I will be back next week with somebody else from the Stitchverse. So until then, take care, enjoy the show. There's a diversion here, right? So I'm involved in a project in Crewe where we've opened up a gallery in the centre of town, and it's in a building from the 1930s that used to be a Burton's, right? Burton's and Dorothy Perkins. And obviously Arcadia Group went out of business in 2021. There's a stone on the building that says that it was laid by James Burton, who was the son of Montague Burton, who was the founder of the company, right? In the office upstairs, and I could have gone to get it, there's a little book that I found that's called Ideals of Industry, and it's published in 1936. And it's basically a collection of press releases and bits of news to do with the Burton story. And it's really interesting when you read it because he built the building in the centre of Crewe in the same way as, like, if you look around old towns and you see buildings that have got circular windows in the roof, right? Those are all W.H. Smith's buildings because the W.H. Smith's company built their own buildings and they had that design aesthetic as part of their roof so that you knew where you entered it. Burton's were very much Art Deco with their buildings. But I was looking through the book literally last night because I thought I'd better read it. I'm going to give it to the local archives. He started Burton's in 1901 with £100. Our building was built in 1933. And by that point, he'd opened over 300 buildings based on the suit business that he was making. And he had a factory that had like 8,000 workers. And you think about that, you just think about the guy, like, really knew what he was doing and building his own buildings and all those sorts of things. And it's just
interesting, the timings that you mentioned, though, because the turn of the century was a kind of shift from everything being made to actual sizings being developed from the back of the military. So you could finally kind of mass produce clothing to an extent. And I think Burton's is that switch over from, you know, if you want a suit, you go to Savile Row, you get measured. Burton's are introducing this kind of semi-formal, ready-made, pick it off the shelf and just walk out the shop with, which at that period was a huge novelty. Plus, the Victorians loved funeral wear and formal wear. If you look at Regent Street and Oxford Street, you'll see the symbols on the buildings are funerary symbols because people were all just shopping for funeral wear and wanting the best funeral wear because everyone was dying left, right and centre of one thing or another. Queen Victoria kind of made it a fashion. And so there was an explosion around that period from the turn of the century to the 30s in what we call modern kind of shopping.
Right, yeah, and he must have got... The other thing that's really clever, right, is that it's a 2-floor building, and on the ground floor was where you went and you bought your suit. And upstairs was dance hall and a sort of billiard space. It had its own separate entrance, but you had to have a suit to go there. So basically, he just builds buildings and makes his own market straight away by putting a venue in there. I was just like, that's
right. No entry, look him up and down.
Honestly. And it's been really sweet, honestly, because like the other day I met this old couple who were like, I think he was 87, and they met up on the floor of the billiards hall, you know, in the 1960s or whatever, when they were younger. And there's these old people who were just like, oh, I used to go up there when I was like 16 and play billiards with my brother. Or I met a lady, I did a talk in Embroiderers Guild on Thursday, and one of the ladies there, Christine, used to be a dance teacher in the 1960s up on that thing. It had like sprung dance floor and all this sort of stuff, you know. So we're hoping that we can like capture these bits of oral history before they're gone, because it's just that, just thinking about, like, I walk around upstairs and it's like, it used to be like there's a leak, we've got to replace a bit of the floor, like the dance floor is knackered because it got put loads of lino put over it. But like in our store cupboard, we've got bright red walls and there's some like bamboo wallpaper and this and that and the other. And just thinking like the amount of snogging that might have gone on back in the day in the building, and all that sort of stuff. It's like, it's so sweet. It's just fascinating that. And like you say, really interesting time because as you're saying as well, mid the two wars, fashion, mechanization and all of that, I guess everything kind of accelerates if you play the game properly.
Yeah, and so right place, right time. Well, I was going to say the other thing about that I think is really a useful lesson now is the high street is struggling. You yourself say you shop online for your denim. We can learn a lesson that people want an experience. When I go shopping here, I'm in France and I live near a city called Rennes. I went in a dozen shops and just bored, walked out, didn't really want to look. One of them was playing dance music, offering smoothies and giving people free tattoos. And I was in there for an hour and I bought a pile of clothes. I didn't get a tattoo, but it was an experience and that's what people want. And retail seems to have forgotten this.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was at Hand and Lock, we did a lot of like pop-up immersive embroidery experiences, which were really popular and got people back in the shops, especially post-COVID. So yeah, I agree with you. The experience is what people want. I would definitely go into more shops if I had more things going on.
Would you buy the dress if they told you can't go upstairs to our rooftop bar unless you're wearing one of our beaded dresses?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't need an excuse to spend my money on clothes.
But it's a good trick, isn't it? If you make that thing desirable enough, if there's a tea dance happening upstairs and you're like a young lad about town, you've got to go and get yourself a waistcoat or whatever. Very smart. Right place, right time then. You two have written a book now. I want to travel back in time, and I think I'll start with you, Robert, if that's all right. How did you end up becoming the person who wrote this book?
I was writing and working in newspapers, and I worked for my sins at the Daily Mail of all places. And it got me into a bit of, it's just a horrible place to work. And yes, I've got loads of gossip, but NDAs. It's a horrible place to work. And it wasn't right for me. And I left and kind of was a little bit of a nomad for a bit, trying to figure out what it was that I wanted. And I happened to find my way into Hand and Lock and find my way to Jessica. And that was eye-opening. It kind of made me realize what it was that I wanted to write about. I wanted to write about fashion. I wanted to write about art, and I wanted to write about embroidery. So I kind of had years of working at Hand and Lock, hand in hand with all these amazing, talented artisan people. And I decided to go to university and study art history, so I would have more of the language and skills to talk about what I loved. And afterwards, all these years later, I feel like I'm doing it quite well as a fashion historian. And Jess was like, I want to write another book. That is the last 12 or 13 years of my life in a potted history.
That's very good. That's very good. Jess, your turn. You can go back even further if you want, because, because again, like I've spoken to people, I've had people that have just graduated from the RSN. I've had people at different stages, but you've been a pro at this for a fair old while now. So how did little Jessica end up becoming the Jessica that you are now?
God, so when I was born, no, I'm joking.
Yeah, there was a bright light.
I think I was like really into textiles when I was at school. I was the only person, there was two of us in our textile class, I think. And it was the only A star I got. And then after school, I actually went a bit rogue. I went and did a photography art foundation and was like, I want to be a cool fashion photographer. And then was like, oh no, actually I don't want to do that. Confused about where I was going. And I went to university and I did theatrical costume making at Central School of Speech and Drama. So, and I was really immersed in the theatre side of things because it's an actual sort of theatre, the school. So you have all the crazy actors there doing their degrees, and then you have backstage, which is what our course was. So I made the costumes for the actors who were performing and doing their degree, and loved it. Loved doing everything with my hands. And then after that went and worked in theatre for a bit, but took a real interest in creating. I actually went to make this one piece, which was a Christine Dior dress, and it had all of this embroidery on it. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. So I went and sought a internship at Hand and Lock just to learn how to do the embroidery for this one garment that I was making for this show, and then ended up staying there. And I did my internship. I went away, carried on with the show. And then they called me back about 6 months later and was like, oh, we really liked you. Do you want to come and work for us? I was like, sure. And then I started working there, and I worked there for 12 years, from being like the intern to the managing director, and all the bits in between, designer, production director, all of that. And then now have my own business doing embroidery, fashion embroidery, but also more specifically interiors embroidery. So yeah, that's it. And there we are today. I wrote my first book back in 2017, and then obviously wrote this one with Robert 2025.
And tell us about the first book. Go and dive into that a little bit.
So the first book was more just a overview of different techniques that I knew really well. So I look at gold work, tambour beading, silk shading. God, I don't remember if there was anything else. There's a few other ones. Cross stitch. I did cross stitch.
And now I'm intimidated. I bet it's right tidy, isn't it?
I don't think I did it very well, but it was a technique book. It looked at some pieces in fashion and said, these are the techniques that we use in fashion, and this is how you do them. It told you how to frame up, told you how to thread a needle, told you how to choose your thread, and it told you how to do the techniques. And so, yeah, then the progression from that book to this book is a different thing. So yeah, it was good, and it taught me a lot about techniques, I guess. It's not often you actually have to sit down and tell people how to do something in a written form.
It's always fascinating, that learning by teaching, isn't it? And finding what the language is to do the things that you know. Do you have a favourite technique?
I obviously love tambour beading, but that's because I love doing it. I taught it quite a lot, and it's a really difficult technique to actually master. You can understand the steps of getting it, but so much of it is down to the feel of the needle in the fabric, how it moves through the fabric. And when I was teaching it, I really enjoyed like helping people get over that hurdle and all like the troubleshooting around it. So I enjoy that technique because I like the way it works as practically. Gold work is probably the technique that I've worked the most with. So that's very close to my heart as well.
Tambour beading, you do it from the underneath, right?
Yes. So it's a hooked needle that goes through the fabric, and then you wrap the thread around it underneath and then pull the needle back through. So it creates a chain stitch by looping the thread together. So it's particularly difficult because, yes, you are working blindly underneath.
So that's the one you like the most to do, whereas is something like gold work more satisfying to teach? Like I love teaching cross stitch, right? Because I swear 10 minutes in and my entire class know it. As long as they can get out their own way and they're not like a man who's like, this is what ladies do, whatever. But on the whole, it's so easy to teach. So I've always just loved it because people are like, he's really great at teaching. I'm like, no, this is really bloody simple. But I mean, which is your favourite technique to teach, would you say?
Well, that I would say tambour, but I like it differently because I like it. I like the challenge of it. I like how people find it really difficult at first, and then it's like this switches when they get it, and you're like, there we go.
We taught some classes in New York a few years ago, and I remember the Americans, actually there were people from all over the world, I remember, but by and large the Americans were just huffing and puffing and getting annoyed that they couldn't get it. And I think it was someone else teaching, and we went away for a day to have some meetings about organising something, and we came back and then it was all silence. They'd all got it. The penny had dropped in that intervening 2 days, and they're all just bam, 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 like it. And that's amazing to go, this was something that was impossible 2 days ago, and you're all huffing and puffing, and now you're all masters.
Yeah. I don't think people quite realise how difficult it is. It's like you are pulling a needle with a hook through a fabric, and you can't see the hook.
Or your finger underneath.
Your finger. So people are like ripping at the fabric, like, oh, it's not coming through. And you're like, take it slowly. Put the pressure on the back of the needle, and then it's like they get even more frustrated, and then it gets even more annoying, and there's holes in the fabric everywhere. But yeah, as Robert said, then they get it, and you're like, yeah.
It makes me think of, I had a crossbow shooting lesson after watching the Hunger Games. I decided I wanted to be Katniss and hunt my own rabbits. And I had this class and I had the big bow and I was lining it up and just firing. And the instructor was coming down the line and I was the last person she was going to come to. But we had a go and I was doing quite well. I was hitting the target, boom, boom, boom. But then she got to me and she told me the correct way. Hold it here on your cheeks, do this, do that. And suddenly I had the correct technique, but it didn't fit. And they were flying off everywhere. Like, I think I killed 3 people and a child. So I absolutely couldn't do it also. But if I had stuck with it, I probably would have been very good because I had obviously a bit of an innate ability to do it. But once I had the correct technique, it all went to crap. But of course, 1 hour-long lesson in Deptford 5 years ago was not quite enough to turn me into Katniss Everdeen.
You're not out in the countryside round your way then just shooting at everything?
Not with a crossbow.
I always loved the fact that even though I'm trying to teach cross stitch, something that's really fundamentally straightforward, how much like counselling and stuff you end up going through, how much of it's not like a watercolour or something where the technique isn't particularly strenuous. You know, it's just about like making people believe in themselves, isn't it? And how much you have to just hold people's hands and be like, I promise you'll get through this and all that sort of stuff.
I know it's hard, but you will do it.
Did you ever then because then when I get in those kind of spaces with people, particularly once they're in the zone and they're feeling good about it, then I just start picking them, like asking them questions about themselves, because you find it's almost like you've unlocked a little bit of them somehow, haven't you? You can be like, tell me your greatest fear.
Yeah, I guess the thing about embroidery is it's very methodical and like rhythmic, and people get quite relaxed by that and like almost at ease with it, and you kind of your mind goes elsewhere. So yeah, you can really get into people's life, I guess.
Yeah, I swear I still got an idea for an interviewing show where it would be like, you know, like they do like hot wings where they eat increasingly hotter wings. I was like, maybe we'll just get them cross stitching and see if that's a novelty way of, you know, if I can get like Will Ferrell doing some cross stitch, I bet we could have a right good conversation or something.
It kind of makes sense though, doesn't it? Because you whenever you're doing something creative, you kind of have to enter a slightly vulnerable space anyway. So you probably tap into that and be able to sort of draw out people's deepest, darkest, saddest secrets.
I'm going to work on it. I tell you, it will be a phenomenon one day. Right, I'm going to go for some tough questioning now. Now that we're in the safe space about that, we're going to cover your favourites here, and I think we'll start with books because we've been doing books anyway. And let's take your book out of the equation because that is obviously your favourite book. And I know that look at it there, beautiful. And I know that the Mr. X Stitch Guide to Cross Stitch is bound to be up there somewhere.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Do you have a favourite book, either of you? In either direction.
Okay, so I guess, well, one of my favourite books that if my house burnt down, I would be really, really sad about is that, and probably what inspired me to go in the direction that I'm in now, is a Christine Dior book. So, you know, I spoke about the dress that made me do embroidery. And the reason that dress was happening is because I had gone to New York Metropolitan Museum of Art and I'd bought this Christine Dior book, and I had spent hours looking through it, paging through it, looking at all the dresses, loving every part of it. And some of the pieces are actually in our book I've chosen. So that book has led me through my career and is always close by me. I used to have it at Hand and Lark. It's now in my studio now. It's always close. So for me, that's one of my favourite books ever. But if I was to choose like a fictional book, I'd probably go Hamnet. But I don't know whether that's just because the film's out and I'm really reliving it.
Have you seen the film yet?
No, I'm too scared. I'd cry the whole time.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's cathartic.
But like, probably I would just be like really emotional, I think. I cried the whole way through the book. So God knows what I'd be like if I came out from the film.
I mean, I do think that like Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley could, I don't know, read the phone book and we'd probably end up just crying anyway. Do you know what I mean? They're those kind of people, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
It's just going to be an Oscar swimmer. I like that. Right, very good. Robert?
Well, if I was going to go for a big weepy book that literally had me crying my eyes out on a plane somewhere over the Atlantic a few years ago, it would be A Little Life by Hanya Yangahara. And that is just such a hugely emotional book. But we're not going that direction. We're going to go with Perfume by Patrick Suskind, which is this It's been made into a film and people might know the film, but ultimately it's a story of a man who's born with no scent. He smells of nothing, and people treat him quite alien, like he's almost not got a soul in their eyes because he has no scent. And the whole plot of the film is how he just wants to smell and he wants people to love him, but in order to create a perfume that he can put on himself, he proceeds to murder people. And it's one of those books that takes you out of your senses. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have go over that, but yeah, he murders everyone. It takes you out of your senses and kind of opens you up to this other world. And I absolutely love it. I've read it multiple times. And I even talking about it now, I could read it again.
That's a heck of a story, isn't it? I was just like, and then he murders people as well. You're like, what?
But he's got an amazing sense of smell. So he can smell like water trickling over a rock, like quarter of a mile away. And he describes the world that he smells in such detail.
But he doesn't like smell like if he'd had a cup of coffee before he went to bed, he still wouldn't like smell. He's got no smell.
I mean, it's in revolutionary France, so I don't think there's a lot of coffee shops around.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's cool. Thank you very much. Sometimes I write these things down as well. It's well known now in some ways as like future birthday presents for my wife. So
oh, right.
Make notes as we go along.
You either be intensely threatened or terrified or love it.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's the states that I want my wife to be in most of the time anyway, so that's all right. Let's do music.
Music. So, I mean, all time, I would say I love the Mumford & Sons first album. That was like one that I listened to on repeat forever. So that's close to my heart. And then the Alt J first album.
Ah, good shout there.
Yeah. They came out around similar times and they have just been forever in my playlist since then. More contemporary. I mean, I'm a big fan of Harry Styles.
Good albums.
And I'm not ashamed of it.
Mumford & Sons are very, like, their first one was like, it's quite a novelty. I feel like their rousingness gets a little bit like, if you have Sigh No More on in the car after a while, you're just a bit like, and then, each song bringing you up. But
yeah.
Alt J's a great shout, though. I really love them because they're like properly weird, aren't they? Yeah.
To make Robert happy, because he thinks I listen to lift music all the time, Bonobo is also one of my favourite artists. So if you want to take that as lift music, then go for it. But to me, it's not.
Yeah. I'm going to stick on your side on this one, Jessica. Come on then, Robert. Tell us what your music taste is and then we will judge you.
I mean, there is only one correct answer, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Oh.
Fair.
Yeah. And also, it came out at the right time. I remember walking into a Virgin Megastore in Blackpool, my hometown, and kind of flipping through all the cool albums. Bear in mind, I hadn't heard anything, and I picked it based on the fact that it was like it had a big sign next to it, and it was a new album. And I took it home, put it in the CD player, and was like, "This is really cool."
Very good album.
That's a good chat. Do you like Fortet, Jess?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kieran.
I like she gets the music follow-up, but I don't.
I mean, we've got the Miseducation on vinyl downstairs in my house. You know, it does get. Do you know what I mean, it's good. This isn't the same but different. But if we ever really need to get some housework done, me and Mary, and we need to be in the same mood, Nene Cherry Raw Like Sushi goes on, and we're all over that all day long because that's like a really good. Lauryn Hill is quite. It has its ups and downs, doesn't it, that album, you know? And sometimes it's bittersweet and all of that sort of stuff. Whereas if you need to smash it out, you need to get some hoovering done. Nene Cherry.
Yeah.
Topped it, 100%. Right, films. Let's go with Jess first again.
Again? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm on your side.
So I used to play on repeat Romeo and Juliet with...
Baz Luhrmann.
Baz Luhrmann, Romeo and Juliet. Just all the time. I loved it. I don't know whether that was just because I was slightly in love with Leonardo DiCaprio, but you know, that's it. I also love The Reader. Have you watched that?
No.
It's a very emotional story. It's Kate Winslet, and she became like a Nazi collaborator, but she also had a relationship with this really young boy, and she used to read stories to him. It was about their relationship. And then what happened after she went away to war. And yeah, I just loved it. So yeah.
Have you done much embroidery for films?
Me, yeah. God, what film, Robert?
There were the new Harry Potter ones with the animals.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts. There was Allied with Brad Pitt and Marianne Cotillard. There's been loads over the years.
Do you get any of that big Marvel action, or did...
I mean, that's all green screen. Even the embroidery is CGI.
It's really difficult sometimes to know, because the production company or the costume designer will come to you, and it will, when you create the invoice for it, it will be under an alias name. So you won't know what it's for until the film comes out, and you're like, oh, so unless you watch that film or you know it very well, you often won't know that your embroidery is in it until months later when someone mentions it to you. But yeah, I did a lot of embroidery and have done, yeah. Film, sorry. I said embroidery and then...
Yeah, but it's also true.
I've done embroidery.
You've done embroidery a little bit. Robert?
Film, I thought about my top three. I'm not going to give you the top three, but I realised they're very indicative of my sense of humour. And the top out of the three of them is Death Becomes Her. And if you haven't seen it, I urge you to see it. I think it is a seminal work. It made possible Jurassic Park. So the following year, Jurassic Park built upon the graphics that were used in Death Becomes Her, which were used quite, it's not a very flashy film, apart from the fact that, Meryl Streep's head is on backwards and Goldie Hawn has a hole in her. But,
Yeah, the hole, isn't it? The hole was a big deal, wasn't it, when it happened? That was like some really revolutionary
like using
stuff.
iPads to dress up as her at Halloween, where they'll have the iPad and it'll show what's behind them, so it looks like they've got a bullet hole through them. Don't want to spoil the plot for you, but Death Becomes Her. I can watch it over and over again. I quote it endlessly. Sometimes in very random circumstances, I'll just say a line from it and be met with blank stares.
I love that. It was such a good film. What year is it?
Oh, I think it's 1993, 1994. If you're Googling it and I'm way off, then I'm fired.
No, just it was 1992, apparently. I was just trying to do the maths then. So 1992. So I
can hear the music from it in my head right now. It's that embedded.
It was seminal. I want to know your top three. You've pleased me, right? Because I was expecting you to be like, Chocolat or some, one of those sorts of films.
Okay, I had a pretentious book, but I don't have a pretentious film. No, my other two are Airplane, which is endlessly funny. We've got to get these people to a hospital. What is it? It's a big white building full of sick patients, but that's not important right now. All the lines from that film they should be carved on my gravestone. And then the final one just gives me absolute joy. Is WALL-E.
Aww.
It's just absolute joy. And no one speaks for the first 30 minutes of it. It's like an old black and white film, the way it's constructed at the beginning. And you just get so invested and no words are exchanged.
It's amazing.
I mean, clearly you don't have any kids because you'd hate every Disney show now because I watched them 7
Well, when I've been at yours and you put on, what was it you put on last time I was there? It was Finding Nemo 2. I'm like on the verge of tears. I was loving it.
Yeah, how old are your kids, Jess?
3 and 1, nearly.
3 and 1.
3 and 10,
right.
1.
I was going to say whether you've watched K-pop Demon Hunters yet. I've got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
No, we're not there yet. But we're very much into Disney films on repeat.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Bluey?
No.
Oh, watch Bluey. Change your life. Swear to God. I've got all of them. They've made me a better parent. For a while, I used to listen to, there's a podcast that was called Gotta Be Done, which is a Bluey podcast. I used to listen to that. I've got 3.
Can you watch it on your own?
Yeah.
Oh, you can, because I'm trying to get her into Bluey, but she won't have anything to do with it. And then I'm like, everyone keeps raving on about how good it is. So I'm like,
there's some episodes. There's one that I often refer to that I think it's called Piggyback or something like that, where basically the 4 of them are just walking along and they're trying to get Bingo to keep up with them. And so there's really useful techniques that come in. This is the thing about it. It's like there are some that you're just like, right, I need to learn how to frame my relationship with my children because Bandit doesn't lose his shit at the children over their breakfast cereal. He does this thing and you're like, right, I'm going to use that because that's really important. And then there's one called Sleepy Time that will just make you cry. So you can watch that in private. And when I watch it, Flora's looking at me like this because she's just waiting for me to cry because she knows the moment when it'll happen because it's got some wholesome music.
I feel like I'm going to start watching Bluey now. I think you've really sold it.
You need to watch the one called Flat Pack. Flat Pack is this thing where the two of them are building a bench on a veranda, and in the meantime, and they're 7 minutes long, the children go through the story of evolution, and it's also a reflection on like life purpose and all of that sort of stuff. Again, it'll make you cry. 7 minutes, ridiculous. It's totally, but yeah, and then there's 3 Bluey albums, and I've got them on vinyl. Okay. Happy days. I'm sold. But I'm, it's good.
I'm so pleased you invited us on to the Bluey fan podcast. Thank you so much for this.
If I had the capacity, and if it hadn't already been done by all of the people, like there's a couple of dads that talk about it on one, there's another. The 2 ladies that did the first Bluey podcast ended up being on Bluey. Bloody hell.
Really?
Right there. Yeah. Lin-Manuel Miranda's been a talking horse on it.
Okay, this is under my radar completely.
Yeah, you haven't lived.
How old are your kids?
6 and 8. And now it's annoying actually because Flora, my 8-year-old, is now just a bit like, I don't really like Bluey anymore. She said that to me on Father's Day as well last year. She was just like, I don't really like Bluey anymore. I was, get out of my house. Now, they watch a varying degree of things. But for me, and I'll watch it. There have been times when the whole family have been away and I'm like, what should I watch on the telly? And I'm like, I could watch like John Wick, or I could look at, and then I'm like, I might just watch a bit of Bluey, to be honest. Fairly similar. There's another episode that's called Handstand, and it's based on this cartoon where there was an animation or a film that someone did, and it was just a looping thing with a certain behavior. Say for instance, a man walks on with a ladder and leaves the ladder there, and then somebody comes along and climbs the ladder, and it'd just be this little set of sequences, right? And they did this whole episode about that, where there's just the kids kick a ball through a window and then come and get it, and then that happens again. And then another thing comes in, and they all just like loop together, and it's so bloody clever the way the bits and pieces are all kind of constructed together. Yeah, honestly, and it's based on like French films and all of those sorts of stuff. It's like right. Back to you guys. Now, is there an interesting fact that not a lot of people know about Robert Ossant? Putting him first.
The thing that I thought about was how, because I was mainly trying to think about things that people didn't know. But back when I was 16, they cloned Dolly the sheep, and it was on the front cover of Time magazine. Anyone listening right now is like, where is this going? I happen to have been really fascinated by cloning when I was a teenager, and I'd written a letter to Time magazine because I didn't like the way it was being framed, like apocalyptically, and we're all going to clone each other and it's going to be the end of the world and it's really bad. And I wrote to them just saying, as someone who will grow up in the world where cloning is going to be a possibility, I see this as being something very good for health and medicine and creating cures for diseases. And they made it the centerpiece of this big spread across Time magazine. And they did this whole feature on what young people think about what cloning is going to do to the world. Now, here we are, decades later. I would like to go back in time and just say, okay, it was crap. We didn't really get half the benefits we thought we were going to get. 16-year-old me knew nothing. Don't listen to him. He's a moron.
Aww, he's an optimist.
I was an optimist. And to be honest, we probably do have a lot of cures now as a result of it. But at least we don't have like armies of weird Sylvester Stallone clones marching through the street shooting people. So it neither was as positive or optimistic nor as negative as it was being framed when I was growing up.
Did you think he was going to say, I am a clone for a minute there?
I don't know what he was going to go to, but like that's so rogue and random. Like, what am I going to say now that's going to be in any way more interesting?
Yeah, what are you going to say, Jess? Let's find out.
I mean, the most I wrote to someone is that I wrote to Heinz once because I thought they were going to stop selling salad cream, and I was really upset about that.
I think you successfully topped. You saved salad cream.
I think we could just mic drop that. That's a good, that's a good enough ending. That's fine.
Yeah, well, that, and I was very good at swimming.
Go on.
People know that about me. I was a champion swimmer before I became interested in embroidery.
Were you?
Not like Olympics, but I used to swim for my county.
What's your best stroke?
Butterfly.
Oh, God.
That was my... I was always put into swimming galas to do 8 lengths butterfly.
God, that's brutal.
Is that not mad?
Oh, that's brutal. Have you got like a knackered back or a really strong back, or like is there...
Really? You say that. I've been to the chiropractor this morning. No, I don't really. I'm fine.
Why did they invent the butterfly stroke? Because it's the weirdest one, isn't it?
And it's also, I don't think it's a very efficient way to swim. It's like, you're escaping this shark. What's the best stroke? A butterfly stroke. I mean, the only thing you're going to do is terrify the shark. You're not actually going to get anywhere very fast.
Yeah, but if you do it well,
Right.
you can swim it pretty
Surely not as fast as other strokes, though.
No, obviously front crawl is the fastest, but you can still go pretty fast.
I've never seen a butterfly survive landing in a body of water, so I feel like the name probably needs a bit of rephrasing, isn't it?
All strokes start with the butterfly kick under the water because it's the fastest way to get through the water.
And then it's just, your arms are really irrelevant, aren't they? You could do anything with them. Your legs are propelling you through the water. Your arms are just...
See, I'm at this tipping point now, like literally today, I've got to do a school run later and then I've got to go and sit by the side of a swimming pool for thankfully only 40 minutes while both of my kids have swimming lessons. And they're both past the point where they can drown now. So I know that I don't have to do this much longer because they don't have the skill. Flora, the kind of girl she is, we had to explain to the teacher that I know she looks like she's drowning, but that's just the way she swims. Because for a while she was just like, is she drowning? We were like, no, that's just how she does it. But I know that when you look at them and they get a bit older, and you would have gone through this, right? You just got parents who have to sit by the side of the pool for 2 hours because their kids are doing laps or something. It's just like...
Yeah, well, my mum, I obviously was part of a swimming club and I did a lot of swimming. My mum got so bored that she ended up just becoming the lady that sold all the swimming costumes to the team because she was like, well, I have nothing else to do. I'm here every day. So she was like the kit lady.
So that was your first encounter with the textile trade, your mother selling swimming costumes.
You're like...
Yeah,
and she was like, do you know what? If we want to look lovely with some tambour beading on it, look right like mermaid tails. Those
wouldn't survive the chlorine, though, I don't think.
No, if you're going to go swimming in anything, it's got to be gold work.
Do you know what? Flora's we've got to take pajamas today. Flora's doing the swimming in her pajamas thing today. Or not take the gold work pajamas, but...
with the sinking rings.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I remember.
She might die.
Yeah.
We'll have to see, really. I've got one more question that I've thought about just before we go, which is, are you going to do another book? Because I feel like you've probably got scope to do another book.
Yeah, we definitely want to. When we planned the Art of Couture Embroidery, we kind of had in mind where the same approach of kind of taking the historical context and zooming into embroidery, where else it could be applied. And I think there's a lot of areas. So outside of couture and fashion, we can obviously look at the military, we can look at red carpets, we can look at the royal family and kind of give that little bit of history lesson, explain the reasons why, and then get right into the execution as well at the same time. So I think there is scope, as long as our publishers are also excited by the prospect of a follow-up.
Now, speaking on behalf of the nation, I think it's a fantastic idea. And I look forward to having you both on for the return and the subsequent volumes thereafter.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Marvellous. Jessica, Robert, thanks for having an NeedleXChange.
Thank you, Jamie.